Now we'll move on to our first panel of discussion on India needs more women leaders. What's the roadblock? Ladies and gentlemen, today women constitute half of India's workforce and bring a perspective like no one else would. So there is nothing that they cannot handle with the highest level of efficiency. How can we contribute in the growing force of women leaders in numerous industries? To talk on this, we have today with us an esteemed panel of speakers. We have with us Ms. Anjana Asrani, Head of PR and Communications, Meesho. Welcome, ma'am. Ms. Deepali Naair is with us, who is the Director, Chief Marketing Officer, India and South Asia, IBM. Very warm welcome to you, ma'am. We have with us Ms. Priti Murthy, who is the President, Group M Services, India. And we have with us Ms. Chaaya Baradhwaj, Founder, Managing Director at DC Webwise, who will be moderating the discussion. So over to you, Chaaya.
Hi, everyone. A very good day to you. Very happy to be hosting a panel of very, very eminent panelists of women achievers on the topic of India needs more women leaders, and is there a roadblock, and why is there that roadblock? Okay, so without much ado, because we just have about, I think, 30 minutes to have all our achievers speak about their own journeys and what's happening around them, we just get started. I think, I would like to actually speak to Deepali, to just kickstart this, because some strong thoughts, Deepali, on, what you think, how do we have the right panel? Who should we be actually asking this question to?
So Chaaya, I always say this, that I think a lot of the times when it comes to issues on diversity and women leaders and progress that corporate organizations are making on the diversity side or not, I feel that men need to be equal partners to this. I don't think if the discussion is just among women, for women, by women, it's going to help. Because please do realize that there are more male CEOs, there are more male board members, there are more male decision makers than women. And if they are in majority and taking decisions on what is important inside an organization, they're taking decisions on whether diversity is their top priority or not. They're taking decisions on, who is a likely candidate who should be considered for being the CEO and who is a likely candidate who should be on the board of the company. Then I think it is time that we, got them to collaborate with us. It's time that we also made them answerable, to what's happening to the diversity agenda wherever it is. And I also feel, apart from this, that we've made progress. I've been working for 28 years now. And I can tell you that when I passed out of MBA college, nobody had heard of the word diversity and inclusion the way it is, talked about today.
Yeah.
I was one of the first 2 management trainees that Tata Motors ever hired. First 2 female management trainees that Tata Motors ever hired, So there is a lot of first, I'm typically have been the only woman on the, seat of the leadership team and so on and so forth, right? And I want things to change. Things have changed. I think, a lot of the women find it extremely simple and encouraging when they are entering the workforce today. I sometimes even feel that the young girls are luckier, which is good, However, not much has changed in the last 5 years. And, if there's time and if you permit me, then I'm going to refer to a very big study that we've done in 9 different geographies with 2,500 plus respondents, both in 2019 and in 2021. And that study gives us some indicators that a lot of programs are being run by a lot of organizations, but the effectiveness of that is to be seen. In fact, the study has proven and talks about the fact that the pipeline of senior women in leadership roles has actually decreased across the world. And the situation is not different in India. Okay, so Chaaya, I want to leave you with these 3 pointers. One is,
Yes.
The men need to be made, collaborators and answerable. And the second is that we have made a lot of progress over the decades, but is the pace of change, enough, especially when otherwise we're galloping, otherwise, technology in society, is galloping. And the third is that if you look at some of the numbers that, the study that we've done at IBM, the pipeline of the senior women leaders has actually decreased. I'm going to leave you with these three thoughts.
Thanks so much. Thanks so much, Deepali. For most of you would know Deepali Naair. She's a very famous name in advertising and marketing. And right now, she is Director Marketing at IBM. For India and South Asia. She's the CMO. So, and she really does bring so much of experience with her. And I'm going to come back to you, Deepali. Lots more. I think we can do a separate session with you.
There is one little thing that I had committed to Bijoya. I had told Bijoya that I will announce it on her platform that I'm within I'm moving on to a bigger, better role, which is, outside of marketing. So, watch this space on LinkedIn. I'm going to be doing the announcement.
Oh, great. Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, coming to you, Priti, and taking on what Deepali just spoke about, what are the steps, we are taking, and why is that pace not, that rapid? Could you share, Group M, again, we've all worked with Group M, as a client or as a partner or something. What's happening either in your organization or otherwise in your observation? If you could just, share your views. Yeah.
Sure. First of all, congratulations, Deepali. I'm looking forward to getting inspired more from you. I would just talk not just about Group M. Group M is almost 50% of the market, but industry per se, because I've seen Publicis, I've seen Omnicom, I have friends in IPG. And at the entry level, advertising sees a lot of women up to the belly point. It is post that you see them all falling off the tree and not able to climb. The branches fall off, or priorities change, or the pressures given, or whatever the terminologies are being used to or labeled for women to fall off the branches, because there is a percentage of women which is quite high actually. At the junior level, it will be almost 60% women in many cases, in many roles. And I've also grown up like that, right? I started as an exec, not just media exec, like a servicing exec, taking production printouts to client offices and wondering what am I doing in advertising. From that era to now, we've all seen that. What is important is to understand is what ambition we are showcasing to these, I think, both genders, as to why is this becoming a gender issue, and why is this at an entry level, it really shouldn't matter. At a belly level, it shouldn't matter how we grow. And sometimes I think what we struggle with is programs, like Deepali said, but I have been a beneficiary of such programs. When I was at the belly and trying to grow up, and a Walk the Talk initiative, which was about diversity and empowering women and making those bold moves, empowering them. And I'm a big beneficiary of that. So I've seen the benefits of being in a program like that, and which, of course, I've come back to Group in my second stint, very proudly saying that kind of got me out of my own inhibitions of crossing that threshold. And many a times we get caught up in the societal language, we get caught up in our own community language, whichever industry you're from, right? Saying, "Achha, to ladki hai, she can't move up the ladder. Oh, these are girls. Oh, she's going to have a baby." I became a CEO after my baby, and I'm very proud of it. My son was 3 years old. Everybody was like, "How will you manage?" I mean, we survived as a family unit, right? We're still thriving. Like, I've just told him, "Do not enter the room. Like, this is serious stuff Mama's doing." So he's sitting outside and wondering, "Where's Mama?" But this is life, and it's okay. I'm not glorifying it, or I'm not making it a big deal. Like, my mom used to cook with me, doing homework in the kitchen. So it's okay. It's not a big thing. But we make this bigger than life. We make this bigger life for men and women and give it that. I'm glad to see that a lot of girls entering the industry do not understand what problems I would have faced. And I'm glad. Because for them, the entry view is very different from what I did, say, 23, 24 years back. I think that transition exists. And somewhere we are seeing that consciousness among a lot of male leaders, who are my friends too. I can see a sea change in the language in the industry. I can see a sea change in the mindset in the way they approach it. Making it gender fluid, not worrying about the gender and the impact of it. And I think pandemic taught us more. Working from home taught us much more about the balancing act, which might have been a one-sided story, but now it's for all. Like, everybody's working from home. Every room is a chaos, and everybody's shouting into. Kid is also on the screen. Husband is also on the screen. Wife is on the screen. My grandfather's working. He's also on the screen. Everybody's on the screen.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I guess there is that shift, definitely positively. And I'm also seeing a lot more. Like if I am mentoring somebody who's 28, 29, far more confident and clear on what they want and what they won't want, and expressing it. And we have a lot of young leaders like that. People are younger to me who are becoming CEOs in their early 30s, or launching their own business, quitting the industry to start something of their own. That mindset shift is a huge impact on any industry, as a matter of fact.
Yeah. Yes. Thanks so much, Priti. Priti is president of Group M Services India. So, again, and one of the largest media buying houses in the country. So, to be at the top over there, we just know after having a baby, etc. I think that is definitely speaks about what we women can do, whether there is support or not. I myself too, an entrepreneur, I had my baby, I had to work out of home. I was on bed rest with a reclining bed. I had a precious baby, test tube baby. And we onboarded our very first large account of Hindustan Unilever, while I was at home, a young kid. So anything is possible. I think it's a mindset, definitely, that we women also have to take a step and not wait for somebody else to give us the opportunity. I think that's very important. Coming now to you, Anjana, you're, I think, the youngest in this group, I'm assuming. You definitely look the youngest. Okay. So tell me about yourself and your experience, Anjana. How's it been? You're the head of PR and communication at Meesho. So, how did you get there? What is your story?
Sure. So firstly, thank you so much for having me on this panel, everyone. I think such fabulous and inspirational stories that I've already heard, right? And so many things that I can resonate with as, someone who's still growing in her career and has a lot more to achieve. So just a little bit of about myself. I've been in PR and communication from the start, worked with multiple brands across the spectrum, right? Whether that's like, started out with agencies and then went on to work with brands like Puma, Target, and now Meesho. So in terms of my career progression, I think I've been very, very lucky. I've had a lot of mentors, both male and female, who've been super, super, I would say, very open and appreciative of the fact that I'm bringing certain capabilities to the table, right? I've always been judged on my capabilities versus my gender. So that way, I feel very privileged to be in the generation that I am in today. Of course, I do understand that, probably some of my cousins, probably my mom, who comes from a different generation, has seen a different side of gender equality, or, diversity, as we call it today. But having said that, I think I completely resonate with what you all have said on this panel, right? It's about the mindset, because sometimes I question myself, I doubt myself, I question my own confidence, right? I think it's more to do with the mindset of whether or not I'm going to be able to achieve it versus the capabilities. I think this concept of self-doubt, and unfortunately what I've heard is women deal with it a lot more than men. I don't know why this happens to us as women, but this, we need to learn to get rid of it. We need to learn to throw it out of the window, and be a lot more confident, because we are equally capable of achieving everything that we have to. So mindset, and I think confidence, is something that women really need to focus on. I think everything else is an equal on the table.
So, Anjana, from what you're speaking, I can gather that you did not experience a bias at any stage, so far. How many years, if I may ask, have you been in? Yeah.
Sure, it's been almost 14 years so far, and
Oh,
yeah, so I haven't really experienced a bias, a gender bias. I'll be, again, I don't want to, just for the sake of this panel, I don't want to bring any excuses or
right.
any examples up, but no, and largely, I would say 98% have not had a gender bias. In fact, I think I really appreciate all my mentors for this, whether it's women. I've had a lot of male mentors as well in my careers. Everyone's been super, I would say, it's given me the right platform to kind of prove myself and grow.
Yeah, that's great. Talking about mentors, like I used to be a journalist and Business World and Business Today. I had Anand P. Raman, who's now at Harvard, and Partha Swami. And when I had my baby, I had some issues at home. I think my bosses were very supportive. And I never felt I'm any different from a male colleague ever in my journalistic career, ever. And there used to be a time when I used to feel, what is everybody making this noise about? I don't see any difference in male and women. But later on in my career, when I saw, like I'm on the ad club jury and I'm seeing I'm the only woman, I'm on a panel and I'm the only woman, I started observing that why is the woman not here? What is it? Why are there so many male CEOs? Why are there so many male CMOs? And yes, so there is, and I think to get to the bottom of it might be very difficult, but definitely we can make our mindset change. And like Deepali was saying, we definitely need to ask these questions to men so that they can genuinely make that mind shift. And instead of us being on the forum, every Women's Day forum should have male panelists. I can't let them say what they think and make them commit and stand to that commitments, etc.
No,
Right?
I completely agree. In fact, Chaya, to your point, we should definitely have men participate in these panels because sometimes the perspectives that they bring to these discussions, right, are actually very different, right? And one is either we make them take that commitment, or we probably are, they are also helping women see certain things in a different light.
Yes,
Right?
absolutely.
As much as I love correcting the men around me at work, so it's not something I take very easily, but I love doing it. But I think today we've come to a place where it's a lot more equitable than what it was earlier in the day.
Right.
I would like to add here, Chaaya,
yes,
that
please.
in one of my recent team conversations, my core team, we were discussing something, and one of my team members said, Priti, but why is this whole a gender thing? Why are we talking about more for women? I don't understand. We should give everybody the opportunity. So I then went back and asked, what is the percentage of your team strength and how many of women? She said, 70% are men, only 30%. I said, what would it take it to be the reverse maybe, or 50-50, or really doesn't matter? I said, till that day, I'll have to ask this question. The day that becomes a non-issue is when I'll stop asking that question. So the good part is there's a generation that's growing up without seeing this as an issue. But at the same breath, we are not realizing that still exists without us realizing also.
Yeah, Preeti, however, I just want to say this, that I think the younger generation has not seen the numbers. Maybe not enough is getting reported and written about, So the question that I would ask your team is, out of, X number of CIOs in the country, how many are women?
Yes,
okay.
very
How many
true.
CEOs in the top 200 companies, are women?
Are women.
Okay. How many head of sales are women? Okay. And, and if you start looking at manufacturing organizations,
CFOs.
yeah, if you start, and I was just going to come to that. If you start looking at manufacturing organizations,
Yes.
how many CFOs are women?
Yes.
So I think the focus is not just therefore on marketing and advertising. Maybe we have a better ratio than the other industries actually.
Yes.
But I think that's the question that younger women also ought to ask themselves. It's not just about them, but it's about what's happening in their environment. And the other single most important question: will we get there? When we are younger, we feel everything is okay, but as Chaaya was talking about, and as you
top
were
of the pyramid. Yeah.
What happens at top of the pyramid?
True.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So this is where I just want to ask, considering that we are all right at the top, Deepali, in fact, I've heard about some of the stuff you do. What do you think? Like I've heard about your mentoring practices. What can we do to encourage women and to bring this actual parity in that top of pyramid?
So I do think that all of us need to, demonstrate activism and being conscious of this. Wherever we can raise a voice, we ought to. And there are 3 levels at which it works. One is personally, do I sleep well at night, talking at a forum like this, but then saying, did I do my part? So I think in every organization that I've worked, I've actually made a conscious effort of bringing back women from, sabbaticals, for example. I have probably personally, looked at careers of 12 to 14 women who today have extensive careers after coming back, from their sabbaticals. That's at a personal level. I mentor women entrepreneurs, that's once again at a personal level, which is my weekend time commitment, to working with these women. I'm very active over there. But I think more importantly, and the study that I refer to, the IBM study, again says that, are we role modeling well? Which is where, for example, when an opportunity comes for me to talk to women, whether it's talk to students, and, in a virtual medium, thousands will watch this, but in the good old days, I always said yes, even if there were 15 women in audience. Okay. Even if there were women in Dharavi, I have gone and said yes to, those audiences, whether it was a corporate, whether it was a big platform or a small platform. I think if we can just spread the message of just stay the course, keep on working, and financial independence is important. I think, do we do that at an activism level? Third is inside your organizations. Are you a bystander or are you an upstander? That's a question you need to ask, right? Do you raise your voice only when it happens to you? Or do you raise your voice about the policies that you have and say that, listen, is this inclusive enough? And there, I think one of the things that you must keep in mind is my message to everyone is that I think we should start looking at, beyond gender diversity. I think we should look at, LGBTQI, or community also. And in the US, for example, you're already seeing that, color-based diversity is also an issue that companies are trying to solve. And we're very active over there, as IBM. But I think these are the three levels at which it needs to be involved. So role model, personally do what you can in the near circle that you have. And I think third, be an upstander inside your organization and inside whichever forums that you're a part of. So if, for example, like I'm on the governing council this year for Internet and Mobile Association of India, right? Bring in the consciousness that you can't do things without women being adequately, representing everything that they're doing. I think that's extremely important. So making a difference. And what I said earlier, men need to be collaborators. I would rather have my mentee going and also speaking to another male mentor who will be great sponsors and who will be, get opportunities for the women. I'm so glad to hear Anjana speak about the fact that, she had great mentors and they've helped her. And I'm assuming, Anjana, that they were both men and women, who've helped you. So I think it is extremely important to bring those examples to life also. Sometimes, we are talking about how women who've done it and we role model, we profile them, and my request, and I know Ad Gully does fantastic programs. My request to Vijaya would also be that, why don't we also speak about the men and, bring their stories out who've actually made a difference and made an effort, So I think these are the things that come to my mind, Chaaya, immediately.
Absolutely very good idea, and if you can speak about, like I spoke about, my editor Anjana spoke about, if those stories come out, I think it will also probably empower people who are struggling on, see, being a woman, it's very easy for me, I feel, to understand what another mother with a young child will need. And I'm of course very supportive, flexible timing, you can leave early, you can come early, whatever, etc. I think, these stories should go out. So probably, to be fair to men, they don't understand what they need to do. And maybe, when they see these stories, they can probably take those lessons on, how they can be supported. Because definitely, I think, sorry, please, Deepali, you want to say something?
I want to say this, that I think having flexible hours, being able to balance time at home, I think that probably the change has come already. I find that to be de rigueur. I find that most CEOs, most organizations, most boards are, very amenable to that. The government has made so much progress in ensuring that there is awareness of a lot of issues in the country. I think the issue really is, and I'm glad, Anjana said that, look, I've not faced any bias, right? But the point is, a lot of the bias is implied and subtle and silent, okay? Which is why a woman's name is not the first one that comes to everybody's mind while thinking of, a new CEO when you're hiring from outside, right? A lot of people assume that women may not be great at maths. And the reverse is also true. When they're looking for a job which requires a lot of creativity, they will think of women. Okay, so there are stereotypes that exist which lead to biases. And I think that is the real issue. And then, the mindset issues, there's a different issue. We're talking only about work. Have we shifted mindsets at home? So let me give you a small example. If you come to
Right.
my home, and Chai, I'm talking about you, okay? You're a woman on the other side. If you come to my home and if you find the house dirty or the food not up to the mark, stereotypical thing is Deepali's home is not great. Okay? Nobody will think that my husband's home is not great. Right? Now, those are stereotypes that we need to deal with. No, I also do the reverse. If I have to call a plumber home, I will never think that there'll be a woman plumber.
Hmm.
Right? I'm also stereotypical in that in thinking of a male plumber all the time. Right? And I think these are the gender stereotypes that the societal, context needs to, where the societal context needs to change.
Yeah, very, very important. Thanks, Deepali. Very, very good points. We have a client, Lubrizol, and I was just for Women's Day activity, I was just Googling and I found that there are actually women plumbers. And I did not know. There's an academy, and I was like and I said that we should, feature these women.
So my maid's daughter has trained at the ITI to be an electrician. And that was the first one for me, also when this opens up your mind, right? But those are still rare.
Yes. And I think, right, not just in the corporate world, but I think spreading the word even down I think that absolutely we can all do that. We should. So going back, but inside the corporate environment, if we could ask, like, of course, even despite being a woman owner of an agency, even in my agency, we have, I think, just about 35% women. Okay. I feel also the number of say applications or the interviews we do, it's you see, we wouldn't look for a male or a female, but whoever fits the job. Okay. But in organizations, I think a lot of mandates are being now put out to change the ratio, right? So at Meesho, is there anything like that? At GroupM, is there anything like that? At IBM, are there agendas like that you all are following today?
So yes, there is a conscious discussion because the male leads, the senior most people who are male also are very conscious about the gender and how they are progressing. And what is important, which I love, is the fact that we discuss which roles are more male and female dominated also. So typically in media planning, the ad ops is very male because historically that's how you don't consider it glamorous enough or client facing. Maybe people don't come women, but I also see a lot of younger women now, graduates who are getting into the digital ad op space because that's where you're running the campaign. So there is the shift that's happening. And what is gratifying for me is these are not frivolous discussions of, oh, chal yaar, ladkiyan gusa dete hain. Not like that, but meaningful role discussions of progression, growth, recruitment strategy, making it viable, the whole ecosystem around it to bring in that diversity story real. And that excites me even more.
Yeah. Yes, thanks. Anjana?
Sure. So I think at Meesho, I'd like to say that a lot of the policies that they think of, right? And of late, I think we've come up with some of the industry best policies, first kind of industry first initiatives as well. A lot of it is actually looked at from a lens of how do we enable more people to come back into the workforce, right? Whether that's, hey, we just recently launched a boundaryless workplace model. That means anybody from anywhere can work with Meesho, right? And hopefully potentially in future also globally, like global talent is what we're looking to hire. I think, very futuristic programs or models like this will actually pave the way. And I'm really happy to see younger organizations. I'm saying younger because Meesho is fairly, newer in the ecosystem compared to some of the other larger companies or, legacy companies that exist, right? The fact that Meesho is actually making this or taking these steps is paving the way for other organizations to also look at similar models that will help more people come into the workforce. So for that, I'm super proud to be with Meesho and actually spearhead some of these initiatives also within the company.
Chaaya, let me just say this. I think from a legacy company perspective and technology company perspective, IBM is right up there as a North Star. I think globally, we are the only company to win the Catalyst Award twice. That's a very rigorously audited award that is given, to organizations for their diversity, initiatives. So that's, at a global scale. But personally, I can tell you this. that the kind of programs that we run to ensure that the women stay on the course, the kind of programs we run that we identify their leadership potential, the kind of interventions we do, for them. I'm personally involved in getting some of those done, and it's fantastic. So, for example, there is this whole concept of limiting belief, right? It's about women believing that they can't do it. And, in her book, Lean In, Sheryl Sandberg has documented this extremely well, right? We actually run a workshop, with the women cohort at the middle management levels where we speak to them about it. For example, I just did the keynote for that recently, where my HR team told me, saying that, Deepali, we want you to come there and not talk about your successes. We want you to come there and talk about what are some of the limiting beliefs that you have. While you may be looked, and it'll be great because you're looked upon as a great leader, but then, can you cover that, right? So I can personally endorse the fact that, IBM is a great place. And similarly, I also want to highlight, two other places where I worked. One was HSBC. I think one of the things that I learned, at HSBC was that if you're doing policy making for women, don't do it for women, okay? Ensure that you do it for everyone. So if it's a flexible work policy, it should not only be for women. And I'm talking about, back in 2006, 2007, that's the thing that I learned at HSBC, that, you treat men and women as equal and do make employee friendly policies rather than just making women friendly policies, so, but they were also a great organization. And the third is FCB Ulka. They may not have gone out and made a statement, but when I look back and I look at, Anil Kapoor, when I look at Ambi, Nitin Bhagwat, Shashi, whom I've worked with very closely and personally with, they are, truly gentlemen who probably not looked at a difference and said this is a male or a female. They've looked at the skills that you bring to the table and the opportunities that are given to you is, purely on account of that. That was a place again which was absolutely, employee friendly and therefore women friendly. I hope, I wish there were, more, men like him. But I want to iterate what Anjana said once again, out of the organizations that I've worked for. Your own manager and mentor makes a huge difference, So I want to mention, Joydeep Roy, who was the CEO at L&T Insurance. Now, L&T may not be known for its diversity, ratio, okay? But I think Joydeep was one person who really, Anjana, like you said, who gave me so much responsibility and is responsible for my growth. He was the first one who gave me a P&L responsibility to manage apart from marketing, for example, right? So I think all of this makes, makes a difference.
Thanks, Deepali. I think Priti also spoke about a similar situation when now she's president at Group M, and her comeback story. Absolutely, they do play a very, very important part. Now, before we close, I think we have about 5 minutes or so. I do want to also speak about, if you all can touch about how do you deal when those subtle biases happen, and we can share this as a message to the, to the perpetrators as well as to those who are facing it. How do you, the subtle biases, what do you do? How did you all address it, or how have you helped somebody else address it? Do you think, and let's face it, we must have all at some point in time faced it.
Yeah, I'm having this wide grin because I call it out on the face. I never go back and wait and tell next time I will catch them. Nope. Call it out early. And that's exactly what I tell all the girls and all the women I mentor is call it out early and realize that you need to call it out. Don't shy away from saying that, are you saying this because of this? Ask for clarity. They will just go back and eat their own words most of the time. And that's my experience. But the good part is you're making another person, a male member, aware that he said so without maybe even realizing it's an unconscious bias. So it's a service we are providing to them. If he say it then and there, it's not rude, it's not arrogance. But it's very important that we capture it there, not hold on to it for a later time to package it in beautiful words and express it. That's my style of saying things, and I've done it that in the past.
If call it out immediately, Anjana, I know you said that but anytime.
No, I mean, come on, unconscious and bias happens all the time, right? Like, though I've been blessed with great mentors. But there are two things that I want to say here. One is exactly like what Preeti said, call it out on their faces. And a lot of times they go back and eat their words. And I've also done this at home. I've done this, don't do it just at office. I do it with my husband, I do it with my father, and I see that perspective changing. Now that my father has a granddaughter. Now, the way he looks at things is suddenly changed in a completely different lens, right? And also because we constantly push back, saying, Acha, we're girls, and this is why you're saying this. So that's one thing. The other thing is, the bias can also be from your side, right? When we're looking at other women, or forget women, when we're looking at anybody, it could be anyone from a different, any gender, right? Like whether it's a guy or a girl, there's sometimes that we have our own biases. Like, and I've consciously corrected myself so many times to stop having that unconscious bias when I'm speaking to someone, when I'm probably subconsciously even judging that person for something that they said or did. So I think that's another thing that we ourselves have to learn a lot of times to correct. So correct yourselves, and as much as you want to correct somebody else who's probably not realizing what they're saying.
Beautifully said, Anjana. I think about the bias that you have yourself, and I think if each one of us were to just take care of it, lots of things at work would be wonderful, and we'll all have great culture, inside our organizations. I think Chaya already said it. I'm also an upstander, and Preeti, thanks, for iterating that. I think it's very important, but sometimes, you can't change the culture of a place. It's not easy, and especially if you're not the top boss. You can't change, and the organizations may be too big, too huge in size, and legacy organizations, especially, then I think you need to ask yourself, is this the place worth working for? It's like taking a call. For example, even when I was in advertising, I was not very comfortable with a cigarette brand, and I had always made it clear that I wouldn't want to work on a cigarette brand. That's a personal call, that you make. And similarly, I think women need to make that call. Do the values of that organization match up with the values that they have? Because let's face it, a lot of the organizations are not, far ahead in terms of their diversity initiatives, and a lot of this flows, from the top. So question that is what I would say.
Thanks. Thanks. Yeah, please. Anjana,
Sorry,
go
I
ahead.
just want to say thank you so much for calling that out, Deepali. That is so important. I've been in organizations where I couldn't resonate with the culture, where I couldn't associate with the values of that organization. And probably when I couldn't change anything, the best I could do was to quit, right? And move on to a place where I felt like I was able to create that impact or give back to that organization. But I think as women, we need to make those hard choices. And it's okay to make those hard choices. Like when I was making that choice, people were telling me, hey, it's such a nice job, it's you're not stressed, it's very easygoing, are you sure you want to make the switch? I was like, yes, for every reason that I can think of, I want to make the switch, right? So it's very important to make those hard choices as well. Thank you, Deepali, for calling that out. That's super important.
Yeah, I think most of the important issues we wanted to discuss, we have really discussed over here. Of course, it's a big issue, and this 30-minute discussion won't really resolve it. Any last words any each of you want to share before we end the discussion today?
Why don't you go first, Preeti?
So actually, as you all speaking just now, I was thinking, who are the other men who impacted my life positively? So a lot, of course, from the workplace, right from Prashant Kumar, because I joined Group M earlier stint thanks to him. I came back again because of him calling me up again. But apart from that, there is my father who taught two daughters to be fearless. Though I was fattu throughout my childhood, I will not climb a tree or whatever, but he taught us to be very fearless. I think both sisters married into homes where we were extremely supported and celebrated for working as a working woman and given the support. So great husband, and not just husband, but the whole ecosystem, my father-in-law, my brother-in-laws. If I look at any of them, they still celebrate. I mean, if this comes out, I know they'll celebrate. That sends a great message in the families itself. And that is where, change begins from home. So I think that is a message I want to give out as a last thought, saying, what made me successful? Change begins at home. And I hope that's the norm now as we see our next generation growing up.
Great. What a great thought. I totally agree with that, Preeti. I think a mindset shift is critical, and we're not different at work and different at home. If we can change the men at our homes, I think they'll be different at work also. It's just that I feel sometimes that are we doing what is called a drop in the ocean? Where is the big movement? How do we accelerate this? You know, and I'm constantly thinking of that and saying, okay, how do we make it bigger? Where can the policy making is actually helping today, but what can help the mindset shift at a larger scale? you know a recent episode that happened, one of the newspapers was doing a banking convention and there were no female speakers. We picked it up on Twitter and we picked it up on LinkedIn, a group of us women, and the organization, the media organization actually then made an effort to include, women on the panels. Now, I'm so glad that that happened, because everybody who was involved in that chain will probably not make the same mistake again, right? But how can we correct these at a very large scale is a thing that keeps on coming to my mind. And I go back to the book Lean In, which Sheryl Sandberg wrote. She wrote it with US context, but when she wrote it and when I read it, everything is just the same in India too. So it has not changed across the world. And some of the people are talking about the fact that COVID has actually set us back by many years, in terms of reaching the gender equity, context. So those issues, Chaya, to my mind, are stuff that the narrative needs to change. The gender based pay gap that exists, it exists, and those are the questions that need to be asked, where once again highlighting that mindset shift is extremely important.
I think Deepali and Preeti have summed it up so well, but my only parting thought here is every drop in the ocean counts, right? Like, I think every small initiative that we're taking today will make a huge impact tomorrow. Something as simple as me teaching my niece to say, I look into the mirror and say, I'm strong, I'm confident, I'm wonderful, I'm happy, I'm beautiful. Every other day is going to make an impact on her, and hopefully through her on so many other girls in the country, right? So I think we're definitely in the right track as a society. Of course, a lot of work needs to be done, and I feel one is, like Dipali said, policy making. The other is education. Education will play a hugely important role. I'm not saying formal education, but when I say education in terms of, how do we bring some of these aspects? Like today, we're talking about financial education, bringing financial education into your school syllabus, right? So how can we bring some of these broader topics into, like, a school syllabus and start talking about it in a more open manner from a very young age, to both boys and girls across the country, and that should set us up for a much brighter future.
Thanks, Anjana. I mean, all of you have definitely said so many things. I think, but basis what you all have just said, I think at home. So I have a son, and he watches a woman, boss every day. By mindset, he's always going to know that, I didn't have to teach him. He's seeing it at his house, but not in every home this happens. And, we do know that husbands can talk very insultingly to the woman of the house. That movie, I think Mom with Sridevi, can't remember the exact name of the movie. They showed it, there's always a mummy ko pata nahi, which it's a reality of across the world. I was watching some other movie on Netflix. Don't know the language in it. I saw it some country, but there too, the man is talking about the woman in front of his children, that she is doesn't know, or is wasting her time, or she didn't look after her career now. So these conversations are happening in the houses, and there, wherever we can make a shift, everybody who's watching this and each of us, if we start making that shift, because a mindset shift is needed. Because otherwise, till men absolutely cognize, see, that cognition has to be there. Otherwise, there's an effort to create equality. That effort itself, sort of defeats the purpose of, having, moving away from a bias. So I think homes definitely need to be there, and we can help men question themselves as to why in their organization or why in a certain forum, why the women is not there. And they definitely like women, more women to be there for sure. So why are they not making it happen? And yeah, that's all I can say from my end. It was really, really awesome to speak to all of you, and a great opportunity. Thank you to Vijoya and Kali for this opportunity to have me also moderate this. Great to have interact with you, Deepali, Priti, and Anjana. And yeah, that's it. Thank you so much, everyone, for
Thank
watching
you.
this
Thank you.
panel. Yeah,
Bye-bye.
and more
Thank you,
power,
everyone. Thank
more
you.
power to everyone, more equality.
Thank you so much, everyone, for sharing your insightful thoughts. That was really a wonderful discussion.